Are you feeling down? You're feeling depressed? You have low energy? What about a loss of interest in the things that you love doing? Well, you might have seasonal affective disorder. Am I
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So we have here Dr. Rob Robinson. He's a clinical director of Family Care Counseling Associates in Wilbraham. Is this a real thing? It's an epidemic. What is it, though?
Well, it's not an epidemic, but it's a very real thing. And certainly, you know, at this time of year, with the sun setting now at 4:27 or whatever it is.
It's the worst.
Yeah. I mean, it essentially makes people want to hibernate. But, you know, it usually, this seasonal affective disorder is a subtype of depression that usually begins in the fall and then begins to go away in the spring. And largely due to the fact that the hypothalamus in the brain is light sensitive. And
it's that vitamin D thing, right?
Yeah,
You need to get a certain
vitamin
amount.
D and some other chemicals that are affected by this, and it kind of puts people in kind of a low-grade funk for a while.
So how do you know if it's just a funk or if it's seasonal affective disorder? Let's talk about the symptoms. What can people expect?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing really, just to have people understand this, is if you've experienced this for like 3 or 4 winters, it's likely around that time, 3 or 4 winters, it's likely that you probably have some seasonal affective disorder going on. And, you know, basically there's a lot of low energy. You know, you feel like hibernating. You lose interest in things as much. You know, the concentration's a little off. You just don't feel like you're on top of your game.
And I think you described it best with just that one word. You're in a funk.
Yeah.
You're
I
feeling
mean,
funky.
you just don't feel. I mean, if it's on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 is feeling great and 1's feeling terrible, and probably like running around like a 5 or a 6 all the time. Sometimes even lower in more pronounced symptoms with people.
And sometimes there's days when people are just feeling down, but this one's different because it's caused by that time of year.
Correct, and it lasts for a while. I mean, this isn't a day or two thing. I mean, you feel like this, you know, for a protracted period of time. And like I said, you start beginning to feel better when the sun begins to return. You know, sometime late February, March. You know, you start beginning to come out of this stuff.
Now, I know we glanced over it earlier, but let's talk about more causes. The one is the biological clock, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that happens is, they believe, is that the circadian rhythm in the biological clock gets thrown off, and serotonin levels begin to deplete. And serotonin is a neurochemical that allows us to feel, you know, feel happy and feel good. And so when that diminishes, it's kind of like a car battery losing its charge. And melatonin is in fact impacted as well. And melatonin is a chemical that allows us to kind of regulate the sleep cycles. So, you know, you have a series of things that are happening in the brain as a result of reduced light.
Are there certain people who are at a higher risk for seasonal affective disorder?
Yes. Women tend to be more affected by this, but when men have it, they have it more severely. Younger people tend to get it worse than older people. And usually if you have a history of depression, you know, that usually is a signal that you probably are going to be more predisposed to this anyway.
And sometimes
and a family history of it as well.
And your region, too. You know, people in San Diego might not get this very much.
That's true. I mean, usually, I forgot what latitude it is, but usually south of a particular latitude, you see decreasing amounts of seasonal affective disorder if you go south toward the equator.
So we've realized that we might have seasonal affective disorder. Where do we go from here? What are the treatment options? How can we make ourselves feel better and kind of kickstart our way into winter?
Great question. I mean, I think the primary line of defense in treating this is really light therapy. You know, they actually make light boxes for this. And if you need information, you might be able to ask your doctor. You can go online, you know, Google it in, find out, you know, what works best for you. But that has to have a certain candle power in order to be effective. But light therapy, sitting in front of a light box for about an hour a day, actually helps. If you can't do that, or you can't afford one of those things, then the next best thing to do is make sure that your house and office lit up. You know, a lot of bright lights, a lot of light colors, because again, the hypothalamus is light sensitive. So if you can increase light, it can help you. It can kind of recharge the battery.
We need to trick our brains a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Going outside you know, 12 noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get direct sunlight, you know, outdoors as much as you can during the winter, that'll help. And for more significant cases, it helps maybe to be put on an antidepressant medication for, you know, 5 or 6 months, and then you can you know, wean yourself off of that, you know, with doctor's orders, obviously, sometime in the early spring, and then be off of it until you start hitting the fall again and go back on an antidepressant. But that helps a lot of people.
But the worst thing you can do is not talk about it. Talking about your problems is the key to getting yourself on the way to recovery.
Absolutely.
Dr. Rob Robinson,
hey,
always a pleasure having you here.
Great to be here.
And we're just talking about sunlight. I want to know the weekend forecast to see